This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Learn how to train, gain, and retain clients. Visit bcpti.ca. Research shows that 95% of New Year's resolutions are fitness related. The new year is also the time that many fitness competitors start to buckle down as competition season is about to get in full swing. Now, focusing on exercising and nutrition is a really positive thing for your health and wellness. But sometimes when there are goals tied to weight loss, the scale can slide too far the other way. Body dysmorphia can become a reality as well as negative self-talk. On today's episode, we hear from Nadine Dumas. She's been on the cover of dozens of fitness magazines, was named Forbes' top female entrepreneurs to watch in 2022, and as a certified health coach, has made it her mission to help women build healthy relationships with food. In this episode, she gets really honest over some of the realities that fitness competitors face and what a weight loss goal can do to the mindset for many people. She'll share helpful insights on how you can build a healthy relationship with food so that you can ultimately create a happy, healthy lifestyle for yourself through 2023 and beyond. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new episodes of the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast weekly. This is ATFW. You have such an incredible journey through the fitness industry. And one thing that I love so much about you is that you are a person that's all about empowering women and have really used your own journey and experiences to navigate into that space in a way that is bringing out the best in people and really helping them find the best in themselves. So I want to learn a little bit more about how you ended up traveling in this direction, because we know, especially career-wise, it's not even where things began for you. So let's first talk about your early relationship with fitness. What was it like for you when you were younger?
It was non-existent. Everyone is like, oh, it's really weird. And I said, no, I wasn't really into fitness. I wasn't really into sports or anything like that when I was young. Even up until I was in my late teens, I didn't really have any interest in the fitness side of things, but maybe when I was about 18 or 19 and just kind of, going to the bars and stuff like that, and the bad eating and stuff, you're like, oh, maybe I can, go to the gym or something. And then my first experience with the gym, it was a co-ed gym. And I don't even think I lasted 10 minutes in there. I completely left, and there was no way I was stepping foot in a co-ed gym.
It is such an intimidating space, especially when you're just starting out.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm just a shy person by nature. And so I just really didn't know what I was doing. And I ended up going to a only women's gym. And I did that for a little while, but just like went and did the step classes and rode the bike or something. But early on, there was nothing as far as sports for me.
I love learning that about you, especially because we're going to hear about your journey with fitness, which has gone to such a high level, and you've been this incredible role model. So it's so fascinating to find out that it wasn't really something that cultivated when you were younger. Let's talk, though, about the career, because you started out not expecting to have a career in this space.
No, I was an accountant, and that's just what I thought that I was going to do for the rest of my life, and climb the corporate ladder. And I was fine with it. And things didn't really change until I moved down here to the Cayman Islands. But I worked as an accountant at a really young age, and I liked what I did. I was good at what I did, and ended up down here. And then things just started to evolve as I was down here.
So tell me a little bit about this evolution, because you go from ledgers into the gym space. How does this happen?
When I moved down here, I was 24. So just only still have gone to an only women's gym, came down here, realized that there's no such thing as an only women's gym. And I had to go to a co-ed gym. And so I was still working as an accountant. And at night I would go to this co-ed gym and try to navigate my way around and not be nervous or anything. And I kept on watching all of these people at the gym, and a lot of them looked like they were like really toned and really big. And So I had asked someone, what are all of these people doing? And he said, oh, they're doing a bodybuilding show. You should really come and watch it. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going or what it was going to be. And I went and I was like, I could do that. I could try that.
You go from not having a relationship with fitness in a big way to spending a couple of years. And I love that you talk about the gym intimidation, because I think it's something all of us feel. It is nerve-wracking going into that space for the first time. But I love that all of a sudden, first bodybuilding show, and you're like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And, there was a point where I had to make a choice when I moved down here. I didn't know anyone. And I was only 24. So how are you going to make friends? And what am I going to do? And I kind of felt like my only choices were kind of morph myself into more of like the party scene of things and maybe a bit more drinking, or start spending a little bit more of my time at the gym. And I chose the gym and was able to make friends and stuff while I was there.
Oh, that's really cool, because community is such a big part of it. And, obviously being yourself originally from Canada and ourselves broadcasting from here, we have a big problem right now. Only it's 84% of Canadians aren't getting enough physical activity. And what I always preach to people that are nervous about that first step or going from no fit to low fit is that there is a community there, and it is really supportive once you start to lean into it. So tell me a little bit about your first prep, because anyone that has competed knows it is a ton of discipline and dedication and a very, very big mental game.
It was. I had someone help me a little bit with my prep. So I went, and there was always people at the gym that would help me work out and figure out what it was that I was doing. And then I had a girl that I was working with in terms of like the diet side of things. And I just kind of put my trust in her and just followed what it was that she was telling me to do. Probably not the smartest thing. And, but I learned a lot from that. And it was tough. But I really had my heart set on this goal, and I really wanted to do it. And so I just kind of chugged through, and probably, if anything, just like seeing the changes in my body motivated me. The eating side, I don't think for me, it was ever a point where a lot of people in the fitness industry may say that they really struggled with cravings or anything like that. I didn't at that time, I think just because I was really focused. But yeah, I think I did it for 6 months, maybe wow. Even 4 months or something. And watched every DVD at the time, because this was a long time ago, on how to pose on stage and how to walk on stage. And I learned, and I just tried to absorb everything possible. And I went onto that stage, and I was very, very tiny. And I'm a tiny person naturally. I'm 5'9". So obviously I was like the tallest person that was standing on the stage. And I think I placed third in that show. And I was so happy, and I was proud of myself. And then I got off that stage, and the amount of people that came up to me and told me that I should not have done that. And I didn't look good, and I didn't suit the part. And it was tough. It was really tough, just because I was in a really happy spot at that time.
And then from there, you decided to continue competing, as I understand it. So tell me about getting through hearing that feedback and then deciding what attracted you to keep going?
I think it was a little bit of that screw you mentality. I'm gonna prove to you that I can do this. And I think I spent about 9 months after that wanting to do it again. And it probably you get that bug, right? And either some people do, they'll do it once and they will never do it again, or some people will, get the bug and continue to keep on doing it. And I did, and I really still loved it, but I kind of wanted to show everyone that I could do this again and I could come back even better. So I did, and I competed again down here 9 months later, and I ended up winning the show. And some of those people actually came up and apologized after.
Awesome.
Funny enough. Yeah. Yeah. So I kept on going and, learned my lessons from the first time in terms of the diet. And that was a whole other ball game. The training was fine. Still being a small person, that was probably the hardest part for me with just trying to add on muscle, but I could only do so much at that time.
Yeah, and through our chat today, we'll talk about what people go through when they're in competition, because obviously we're hearing about your journey now, but I know that a lot of this becomes a catalyst to what you transition to down the line. But
Yeah.
for now, going through, you're seeing these successes. How does all of a sudden this road to competition translate to having your own bodybuilding federation basically in Canada? Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah.
That's a big leap.
So it was, yes. After I did that show, I can't really remember the time frame because it was quite a while back. I decided to quit my job. So while I was prepping for that second show and I was working as an accountant down here, I started to, on the side, learn as much as I could about diet and nutrition and training and everything like that. And there was a couple of people, it was also the time that Facebook had came out. So there's a couple of people that would reach out to me and they'd be like, oh, can you help me with the diet? I've seen what it is that you do. And I'm like, oh, sure. And I just started helping everyone for free. And then I decided at that time to quit my job. One of the things I couldn't do was stay down here and quit my job and switch careers. So I had to move back to Canada at that time. So
huge
quit my
decision.
job. Yes. Quit my job. It was not taken very well by my family at the time. So came back up to Canada. And when I came back up to Canada, I had reached out to the head of the federation that I was competing with down here in Cayman. And I said, I still really want to compete. I really love the whole industry. I've now quit my job and moved into this industry. Is there a federation in Canada? And he said, funny enough, there's someone that actually just bought it. And he lives in Edmonton. And I was living in Calgary or Red Deer at the time or something. And I was like, perfect. So I got in contact with him and I came on board and I decided to start running natural bodybuilding federations all throughout Canada. And then I started competing again as a competitor in the United States because I couldn't compete in my own shows in Canada.
Fair.
So I would travel. I would travel to the States and compete for a couple more years after that. But then we just ran shows in Canada and I worked with a lot of the female competitors at that time as well.
And what was it like for you competing yourself and then managing this huge new undertaking? Because that's a lot of balance.
The burnout was so bad. And that was just the start of it as well. I've had many years of just some really bad burnout, but the burnout from the dieting, because all of a sudden winning my show and then wanting to compete even more, and then the pressure being even more, and the pressure I put on myself. So the training that I had to do, the dieting that I had to do, running shows that we had to do, and then also trying to build a career in this where I was 27 when I quit my job as an accountant and I moved into the industry. And I'd always just known that being in the professional world, people just hired you and you just did your job. Where when you become an entrepreneur, you now all of a sudden have to go out and find those people and have people know who you are and recognize you, and hopefully they'll hire you. So it was a lot of work. And I remember I think I'd usually get up at like 5 a.m. and I would work straight until 11 o'clock at night till I closed my laptop and just closed my, it was not good.
Yeah, that's a frenetic pace to be moving at that point. Now, I know through your fitness journey as well, you've had many magazine covers and features. Was this happening simultaneously through this journey as well?
The very first magazine cover, I think, was in 2008 or 2009. So I quit my job and moved back to Canada in 2007. So in 2009, I don't even know what year it was. I got my first cover, and then it just started to snowball from there. So then there was also this pressure to look a certain way for magazines, and there was a lot of pressure on me for quite a few years.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leading because I can only imagine. Talk me through what your mindset's at this point, because anyone that's battled burnout, there's a whole bunch of mental layers that start to happen because you really are running on exhaustion.
Yeah, I don't think that I fully understood it at the time. And, the industry is funny where sometimes almost that feeling of being exhausted was almost praised because it means that you're working hard enough to earn that spot on the stage. And so you kind of almost assumed that this was normal and it would eventually just go away once you finish your show or whatever it was. And it never did. But I just kept on chugging along, just thinking that eventually this would just go away. But I also was still chugging along because I wanted so badly to achieve certain levels that I just kept on putting the pressure on myself. And then also running a business as well, and just making sure that I'm making enough money. And yeah, there was a lot going on at that time.
And what were you noticing in the clients that you were working with simultaneously? Did you find that this was a common thread or kind of a personal experience at this point?
Probably at that point, I'm sure that they were going through something similar, but I don't think I fully associated it at that time until I fully got out of the industry and like stopped competing, and then really started to realize that, oh, this is very common among everyone, not even just competitors. It's everyone that is really struggling to just get through life on a day-to-day basis, especially with the pressure that people have on themselves from a nutrition, a weight loss standpoint.
Turn your passion for fitness into a career with British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Taught by personal trainers, BCPTI combines classroom and in-gym training to give you the tools needed to succeed in the fitness industry and make an impact. With a simple formula focused on service, science, and sales, prospective personal trainers learn how to gain, train, and retain clients. Visit bcpti.ca for more information. Well, and especially when you look at, the years that we've grown up, I feel like now there's more conversations happening within the space that have a more holistic approach and that are accepting of all body types and are telling us that we are enough and don't need to fit an ideal to be enough. But certainly when you think of even what was coming out in the media from celebrity and pop culture, you only need to look at like your Jessica Simpsons and things like that. And then now, if you watch any of those clips back and then how ridiculed they were in society, and they are perfectly normal, healthy beings. And I use the term normal as in just healthy beings living their lives, doing their things. No wonder we had issues navigating this. So what sparked your exit from this industry and exit from competing? Because it's a huge part of your life at this point. You're giving it everything in that space.
Yeah, I think that I gave myself 2 more shows. And I had said to myself, and it was probably because I knew that I needed to start just building my career a little bit more. And I think that I found a little bit more of a passion in just like shooting rather than actually standing on stage. And so I gave myself 2 last shows, and I finished the very last show. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm done. I want to just move up to another level. I want to be on the cover of magazines. I want to run this bodybuilding federation. I want to achieve more in my career, and that something had to give at that time. So I put that to the side, but I still very much stayed in the space because I had experienced so many things going through competing. And then the people and the women that I was working with that were competing, I started seeing them experience the same things. And I had so much of this passion to just help these other women that I stayed in the industry. I just didn't compete, but then I started creating workshops within it just to help women really understand the body dysmorphia and the binge eating. And I called it, what did I call it? Life after competing. That's what I called it. And so I would travel around Canada and actually North America. I went into the States a little bit, and I had these workshops where I would teach people how to understand what happens after you've competed. And then it's somehow morphed into, this is the same thing for everyone. And women are using extreme diets, and they have the binging and they have the body dysmorphia, and then everything just kind of took off from there.
What were the things that you were noticing with the women that you were connecting with? What was this common thread? What did it look like?
It was the binge eating. It was how they viewed themselves in the mirror, the body dysmorphia, the mental game that is played in your head, and the burnout as well, of just like constantly just chugging along and just trying to go for this goal of looking a certain way, and then having it all go down the drain as soon as you've got off your diet or you finish competing. So it was just this internal struggle that everyone had, and I had it as well. And so I was able to relate.
Yeah, it's really about healing that relationship with self and understanding your whys behind, what we were doing to ourselves. Did you find, because I think this conversation now is more out there, thankfully, due to social media and this other side of the competition coin, but because you were so integrated in the industry, was there any pushback when you started attributing your voice to these realities?
Yeah, there was actually. Now that you say that, I was invited onto a podcast at the time that I was hosting these workshops, because she was more in like the IFBB level. So like the elite, if you want to call it, professional level. And she had invited me onto her podcast. And there was some post that was made, and obviously it said like what it was that I was going to be talking about. And whoever was above her that ran all of the shows completely canceled the whole podcast and would not allow me to come on it. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me. And that's really why I posed the question, because I mean, again, I don't really know why we shouldn't talk about this, because at the end of the day, there are going to be people that compete. I personally really enjoyed the process for myself and was able to hold on to the sense of self. And the number one thing that I would tell people when you'd get all the comments of you look amazing and you look this, is that where I am at is very unrealistic. And you're seeing me actually at my most unhealthy, because we know, especially as women, oftentimes your body isn't even functioning how it should be functioning. Your hormones are out of balance. Healing that is a huge process.
Yes.
But for some reason, I think there's even still this stigma where they don't want to have that brought to the surface, where this is a huge part of it and why these conversations are so important. So talk to me a little bit about this momentum that starts to build once you start using your voice for this platform that's now not only helping people in the competition circuit that you've cared so much about, but women in general and people in general.
I don't even know where to start with that one.
It's a good thing. It shows just all the amazing work that you've done.
It's really just helping women and teaching women that this, I don't want to say it's not real, because I still think that it's fun to work towards a goal, but really also understanding what you see on social media, understanding what is thrown at you from the industry. Part of my background when I went into like expanding into my career is through the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. And one of the things that was talked about all the time was that the industry is a for-profit market, and they are doing everything that they can to make money off of people, whether it's diet products, whether it's using certain ads, whatever it is. And their job is to make the money. But as a woman that is seeing those ads or anything like that, all they're seeing is success, and success equals this photo. And that's what I have to now try and achieve, because that's for me what's going to achieve success. And if I don't, then I'm a failure. And I think really trying to help people drive that home of, you don't always want to just say that's fake, or, and it takes a lot to explain to a person how to break down all of those, images and advertising and the way that things are coming across to people. But the more and more we can help people understand what the industry is trying to feed us and just kind of look more within themselves, that's really what it is that I try to do. And I try to focus on as much as possible. And I remember even doing my workshops many years ago. And I think it was a magazine cover. It wasn't one of mine, it was someone else. And I had said to them that that photo was taken, and even standing on stage, is for one moment in time. And that is it. And that person does not look like that anymore. And they probably didn't look like that last week either. And that's just for that one moment in time. And if it's a magazine cover, sometimes it's photoshopped, but no one really likes to talk about the outside of all of that and what it took to get there. And, like you said, things are now starting to change a little bit more, and people are starting to be a little bit more open and honest with themselves and, what they look like normally and that kind of thing. So,
well, and I mean, we know
changing.
The competitive circuit, when we look at that aspect as well, is very multi-layered. Like, you were part of a natural bodybuilding federation. We don't need to dig deep into it, but we know there's a whole other side where that's not the story for a lot of people. And people face a lot of pressure to take or do certain things to attain that photo moment. And a lot of times they're going into it with no realization that whatever they idolized may have potentially been achieved through a path like that. So how do you work with people to remedy that relationship with self when it comes to body dysmorphia? Because yes, we grew up in a time where there was a very dangerous narrative about physique, but now we're bombarded with images more than ever, just due to the nature of how big social media is a part of our lives.
Dealing with the body dysmorphia, I go back quite far with them when I'm working with my clients, because there is typically something that happened, something that was said, something that triggered them from a long time ago. Whether it was when we were kids, when we were on the playground, some boy said something to us, we were an athlete or a dancer or a gymnast or a figure skater when we were younger and our coach said something to us, whether it was something that our parent had said to us. So there's a lot of work that really needs to be done. And not just looking at where you're at currently, but really undoing and going back to where everything first began. And it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of digging for yourself and also for me to just have those conversations of where things started and have people really start to see, oh, this is where things began for me. And this is what led me into eating the way that I did. And this is the and just on and on and on and on. So it's not really the conversation of like the body dysmorphia that they're currently experiencing. It's more just unraveling a lot of the stuff from the past and then working towards everything as to where you're at right now and why you feel the way that you do. But then also just having that conversation of what is it that you see on social media that makes you want to look like this person? And then sometimes just like honestly breaking it down. And I'm like, she's using drugs.
Right, fair.
I just saw one the other day and someone had posted it, and it was like the evolution of some fitness girl and, how she's inspired by this fitness girl. I'm like, she's on drugs. Like, she's using stuff to look the way that she does. Yeah. And I don't really know where there's like some kind of disconnect, but it's what people see.
Well, it's exactly as I was saying before. It is this huge element that just isn't necessarily talked about, and nobody that's more than likely posting that wants to put that at the forefront. And so that it is this illusion that we're fed. I mean, it's just the same when you look at celebrities, and now there's Facetune, and I don't even like, people are adapting on an app exactly the image that they're putting out there. We do need to understand it's a very filtered version, often achieved not necessarily in the most healthy way. On that note, we know that you work with clients as well with healing the relationships physically with their bodies. So what are some of the biggest concerns for people coming out of competition that maybe do end up landing in the binge eating or really having an unhealthy relationship with nutrition and fueling their bodies?
What's the conversation around that?
Yeah, because I mean, it's a hard thing to change when you've basically programmed yourself to have this regimented relationship of how you're going to fuel yourself. And often the fuel at that point, as we know, is lack, like you're in a calorie deficit in a big way.
Yeah. It's not really any different sometimes than dealing with clients who have just done an extreme diet, fasting or juicing or done the keto or whatever it is. But I would say one of the common things that I do talk about is looking at what is actually realistic in your life and how to apply that to what is your reality. Still a very, very tough thing to wrap around because people want to look like how they used to or want to weigh a certain amount. But I also help people understand, okay, you want to weigh X amount and you remember weighing X amount, whether it was on the day of your ultra marathon or the day of your wedding or the day that you stood on stage. And how did you feel on each of those days? And typically people will usually say, I felt like crap. I was starved. I felt depleted. I looked good. And that's what they'll usually say. I looked good, but I felt like crap. And I'm like, you have to remember what you did in order to get there, not just that one moment, but what you did to actually get there. And do you want to go back to that? And they always say, no, I don't want to go back, but I want to look like this. And I'm like, well, we're going to try and find, and I usually use a pendulum. So over here would be the super restricting. And as soon as you drop that, it flips over to the other side, and then it's the binging. And so what I try to do is I try to take the happy parts and the fun parts of both of them and somehow meet them in the middle. So when the ball drops, it's very short. So I get to understand from them, what was it that you liked when you were on whatever, some restrictive diet? And there's usually some healthy and some fun things, like maybe they actually like to work out. So we're going to take those good things. And then we're going to take this side of you binging and being a bad person, because that's usually what we associate it with, and bring that down just a little bit and have them meet somewhere in the middle. That's probably one of the best things that I can do, and just bring them a little bit more into what is realistic for them.
And I like how you verbalize that too, because we really do have to think of how we speak to ourselves and the language around these elements. And so many people say, oh, if I have this, I'm bad. And if I have this, I'm good.
Yes.
Hopefully one day we can abolish those narratives, because I don't believe that to be true. It doesn't make you a bad person or a good person to do one way or the other. I'm curious your viewpoints now. Obviously, as I say, you do help women. We know that fad diets and this and that are a huge part and something that's heavily marketed to a lot of people. But from the competition standpoint, do you feel that there's merit for people pursuing those still? Like, can there be a positive experience out of that?
I think that there can, because you had a positive experience, right? And I think where it differs is a sense of self, like you had said. If a person can get there first and then compete, you're good.
Love that.
But the majority of people are usually, and I'm not saying that everyone is like this, but I would say there's a large portion of people that compete typically for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And it's something that does need to be looked at. And I do think that there is an opportunity for a lot of people. And I've worked with people in the past that have done it, and they do have that strong sense of self. And are good no matter how they place and are just really content with how hard they worked and everything. But it's definitely few and far between.
No, I'm really glad that you addressed that because it is interesting how it's such a mental game when you're in it. But it is important to emphasize there should be a lot of mental work ahead of it so that you are connected to the right why of why you're putting your body through that, because it is putting your body through a heck of a lot and asking a lot of it. And again, asking it to operate in depletion on top
Yeah.
of your regular life, which no wonder burnout is such a big part of it. Now, I know that you have accomplished so many things as an entrepreneur, and even this year, Forbes magazine recognizing you once again for 2022 Entrepreneur to Watch. So talk me through where you're at now and what you're on the mission to accomplish.
Always still trying to accomplish so many things and always still trying to evolve. And a couple of months ago, I just finished the functional medicine coaching program. So I really want as many things in my toolkit as possible so that when I do have a client come to me, I can work with them in all different areas and understand things and understand them in all different areas. So if I can just add more to my toolkit, that's definitely what I'm going to do. I won't do it to the point where I'm going to burn myself out again, but probably just like continuing to get awareness out for women to really understand the whole mind-body connection. And then I have some other stuff on the side. Like I have a tanning product that I developed during the pandemic and just
Very
growing
cool.
that. Yeah. So I kind of coined it a little bit of just helping women from the inside out. So my job, my coaching is more to help women from the inside and also from the outside as well. And then the tanning just from the outside. So
what would be some of the main ways to create that relationship between mind and body?
Silencing a lot of the noise that's around you. And probably one of the ways that I explain it when I'm working with my clients is kind of like put them in this little circle and I kind of build a wall up around them to silence out a lot of that noise. So what social media has just fed them on the number one thing that they should be doing with their diet or their exercise. And, it's great to read those kinds of things, but it can become very, very overwhelming for people to try and do it all. And then they become very confused. And then there's this decision fatigue that comes in. And so I like to try to create this circle for them that has this wall built up and gives them time to just actually listen to themselves. Because if you can silence out a lot of that noise and you can be in this space where you can listen to what your body is wanting from you or what it is needing, it's incredible. And I can tell you just with some of the women that I've worked with, when that happens, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And on that note, what's your relationship with fitness now?
It was a little lax right now because we were traveling. But if anything, I go to the gym when I can, and I still book it into my calendar so that I don't book any meetings over it. But usually at the beginning of the week, I will book and, I'll try to get in there 4 times a week. And I go in and I lift, and I definitely do not put pressure on myself anymore. A couple of months ago, I shot for the cover of a magazine. And so that was a part for me that I put pressure on myself, but I know how to do it in a non-negative way where I'm dragging my butt to the gym or, I'm saying the whole time that I don't want to be there or anything like that. I really, really enjoy the process. And so as long as I'm enjoying the process from the fitness side, I'm fine with it. So
I love that, especially from coming from such intense competition for so many years, that you're really leading by example, how you have experienced the fatigue and the relationship with self that I'm sure at that point you knew was something that needed to be healed, and taking the space to do the work and now imparting that knowledge on others. And I'm so happy that that's created space for you to be able to, yes, work toward those goals as needed, but then be able to do fitness just as fuel for yourself in life
Yeah.
without pressure, because that is a journey to get to, especially when it's such a huge part of who you are. And I can't even imagine the pressure once you had momentum build as much as you had.
Yeah, it was. And I think, don't get me wrong, everything that I had been through in the past I truly believe, has led me to where I'm at. And I probably wouldn't change anything, only because has put me in this spot right now. And everything that I went through, whether it was the burnout, whether it was, and I did the binge eating as well, and learning how to compete, and the body dysmorphia and all of those kinds of things. If I wouldn't have went through that, I don't think I would be able to do the job that I do right now in terms of relating to my clients. So it's definitely gotten me to where it is that I am now. I had to pay the price for a lot of things, but it was worth it.
Well, in a big way, it was all tools that are now added to your toolkit, because I'm sure you're able to come from such a genuine space. And you talked about that intimidation from those first days walking into a gym. I'm sure people that even are connecting with yourself on this level, it can be intimidating to admit when we're not in the best relationship with ourselves. So I'm sure it provides a very safe space for people to open up. One thing before I let you go that I love to leave people with is just one of your favorite motivational nuggets of wisdom, perhaps some words that you live by, or just something that you've received one day that's imparted on your life.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I have seen that in my career, and it is how I follow things with my career. And I start with everything in terms of how much I care about everyone that I'm working with, because people really don't. They don't care how much it is that you know, until they actually feel like someone understands them, or someone gets them, or someone's just there to actually listen to them.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. And at the end of the day, that really is the whole element of human connection. Most of us are looking for an ear to listen, and then ultimately that unfolds with a lot of knowledge to gain. So Nadine, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here, because obviously we followed each other for some time, and I just knew you've had this incredible journey, but I think it's really important what you're using your voice now, because it is something that we should be talking about more and more. It's the realities of every coin has an opposite side, and the opposite side, as you said, in that pendulum swing can be where a lot of people get stuck. So improving that relationship of mind and body, it is something that's symbiotic and needs to be balanced within ourselves. So thank you for doing the work that you do, because I'm sure it's making a tremendous difference in many lives.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by the British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Learn how to train, gain, and retain clients. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.